There we go. Again, hello everybody. Cathey Armillas. Welcome to Find Your Speaking Flavor. And today, what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to run you through a quick assessment. It's just like a 10 question quiz. You're going to get your primary flavor. And then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through all of the flavors and I'm going to show some good pairings for your primary flavor. And we'll kind of talk through that. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Pretty sure everybody can see that. Shoot me a message if you cannot. I think everybody can see that. That should be going good. Awesome. Okay. So before I put the quiz up, um, one thing that I want to say is if you think of your speaking flavor, if you think about it like a personality assessment, there's some things that you might have in your, speaking style that are really your strengths. You might be really good at putting together complex information and making it easy for people to understand. You might be really good at laying things out so it's kind of like clear and concise. You also might be really good at like taking the lesson from a story and being like the wise one. You might be very, very good at being very inspirational, just kind of the way that you speak. You have kind of this inspiration that inspires people every time you speak. What I like to teach people when I coach them in speaking is that we should practice them all. Even if we have one that we're more comfortable with, we should be practicing all of them. So imagine this. Let's say you're playing a sport and you're really good. I'm just going to say basketball. I don't play basketball, so if I say anything wrong, it's because I don't play it. But let's say part of your game, part of the game, you're like, I have to be really good at taking far out shots. So you practice that, you get really good at it, becomes like your big strength. And for whatever reason, your short game isn't good. So it's like, okay, great. You have this primary strength, but in order for you to be really good at everything and every single part of the game, you're going to have to be good at all aspects. You're going to have to be good at conditioning. You're going to have to be good at agility. You're going to have to be good at shooting from anywhere. Your passing is going to have to be on point. So just having one of the strengths is not good enough. So today I'm going to cover some of that. But first, I want to start by having everyone go to the actual quiz itself. You should be able to take your phone and do that. Or, hold on. I will put in the chat and put the link in the chat. See if I can get this in the chat so people can just. Okay, put the link in the chat as well. So, what I want you to do when you take this, first thing I want you to think about before you start, don't answer the questions on how you want to be as a speaker. Look at it and read through it and answer the questions honestly about how you are as a speaker and a storyteller today. So I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to go through that. Hi, Christy and Mark. Hello. I see you all joined at some point. Again, I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to do the quiz. Remember to answer on how you are as a speaker today. I'm actually worried that nobody can chat to me. If somebody could send me a chat message. I can see you all here, but I don't see any chats from anybody. I hope they're not disabled. If they are, I super apologize. Oh, no, Julie said hi. Thank you, Julie. Whew. Woo! Started to worry there for a second. All right, all right. I see that my co-founder Mark Williams is in the house. I'm gonna promote him to come up and say hi really quick too. So, all right, I'll give another minute and then we'll chat about the flavors. See if that works. Hey, Mark. Hello.
Hey, hey, Cathey!
Hey, welcome.
What's going on? You are the flavor of the month, the flavor of the day, the flavor of the year. You are like old school hip hop, flavor in your ear.
Got all the flavors. I saw you in the background. I was like, "Hey, if you want to come on and say hi really quick."
Hey, hey, we are in great hands with Queen Cathey Armillas speaking about these speaking flavors. And listen, I'm coming in and soaking in all the glory and the knowledge. And for everybody who is watching, paying attention, and absorbing this, it is so important to find our unique voice. I was at a session earlier today where it was like, ooh, everybody could kind of do this in their own way, and discovering your own way is the best way. So, looking forward to soaking in more of this knowledge from the queen herself.
Oh, Mark. Well, thank you, first of all. Just really quick, did you take the quiz again?
I was in the middle of taking the quiz until I got bumped up to panelist. So, I'm going to go back and finish my quiz, Professor.
All right, it sounds good. It sounds good because I'll maybe promote you back later because I want you to chat about what you got.
Perfect.
All right, I'm getting messages saying that people are done. So, okay. All right, Mark, we'll just leave you there for a while. That sounds good. All right. Well, all right, everyone. If you're done with it, it looks like a couple of you are. Sounds good. I'm gonna move ahead. First of all, I want to say something really quick about any kind of assessment. I personally take the Myers-Briggs assessment once a year. I kind of put it on my calendar, like almost the same time every year I take it. And over the years, I've seen my extroversion go down. I've seen my numbers kind of change. And I just want to say, like anything in life, this is fluid. There's something that might come up here today, and you go, "Oh my gosh, this is what I am." It is, but it doesn't mean you can't change it. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start by going through them. There's six of them: the spark, the sage, the firecracker, the connector, the architect, and the wild card. And if you're listening to them thinking a couple of them sound alike, you're going to hear how they are same, but different, a little bit different. All right, let's start with the first one. Anybody who came up with the spark, the way that you show up when you speak and you storytell is you have energy. You have this kind of light. When you come into the room, people are very attracted to that. This is a major skill because when people don't have it, when people tend to, if you've ever met anybody that's like monotone, like my seventh grade science teacher, if you've met anybody that's monotone, like this is a hard thing to manufacture. So if you have the spark naturally, this is something that's really good. Because you do a really good job about getting inspiration to people and rallying people around ideas. Maybe one of the pairings, and if this is you, maybe one of the pairings that you could do is architect, because, and we'll get to architect a little bit more, but maybe you need a little bit more structure to go along with that spark. Spark is awesome, but it also probably needs some structure too. In the growth zone, I'll have a PDF for this and I'll send it out to everybody, by the way. But your growth is like, you have this passion, but you need to ground it in clarity. So if you came up with the spark, that's awesome. It's such a good one to be. But there's also potential for growth. The next one is the sage. Oh, wise one. If you're the sage, you're that person that every time you're out and about, people say like, "Oh, that's very wise. That's brilliant." And many times, what you have is you're saying things that people really haven't heard before. You have this great ability to make people kind of stop and think about things in a different way. You could have a complementary flavor and pair well if you would add a little bit of spark. Because sometimes sage people are very, very grounded and they tend to speak a little bit calmer. They tend to speak a little bit slower and softer, if you see where I'm going with this. And not always, not always. We can't paint everybody in the same way, but I will say that the sages can, usually there's usually room for a little bit of spark there. Um, the next one is the firecracker. So if you're like, ooh, the spark and the firecracker. So the firecracker's a little bit more pop. They're a little bit more like the way that the firecracker thinks is they're always trying to break patterns. And they're not doing it intentionally. It's just who they are. If everybody else thinks this way, the way that they're going to speak and talk is going to break that pattern. It's not going to sound cliche. It's going to sound very, very different. So if anybody came up with, and by the way, please pop it in the chat if you came up for one of these. When yours comes up, like pop it in the chat. I'd love to know what people out there are getting. And Mark, whenever you're done, you can pop back on too if you want to say what you were, because I think yours, the one that I think that you are is coming up. But the firecracker, they're great at all these things. They're great at bringing like extra energy. But one of the things that they could benefit from is being a connector. Sometimes they come in with a lot of pop, a lot of bang. It's sometimes, there's a lot of entertainment value around them, but they could be better at being more like the connector, which is more in connecting with people. Um, which is this one, the next one. So the next one is the connector. And the connector is really great at just naturally making connections with people, connections to ideas. That's just how their brain naturally thinks, and that's how they show up. The connector, I think that sometimes I think about it. I took an assessment one time and it was about how you show up as a gamer. It was so fun. It was like, if you're in the game, are you the killer? So you're in the game and you're just trying to like destroy everything. Are you the one that goes after? Are you the challenger? Are you the one that's just trying to get all the points? Or are you the socializer? And I remember a couple of my friends that took that assessment with me. I was like, 100% they're the socializer. They're in the game, just trying to say hi to everybody and connect or talk, and where other people might be really competitive. Mark, I feel like you fall into one of these. What did you come up with today?
You described me perfectly and you knew it was coming up. I am
Connector.
definitely the connector.
I knew it. I knew it. You're also spark. You also have spark in you. There's a lot of other things that you are, but the connector. What really stands out on this to you?
I think what really stood out to me was making people feel seen.
Mm, mhm.
Right? Like that's what I'm always aiming to do when I am training or speaking, whether it's something interactive and I'm trying to get people seen in the room, or even if it's a keynote and I'm just speaking to people, I really want to draw attention to the people in the room. And I want to create a connection between the people in the room. So I like
Yeah.
that's what stood out to me. The
So if you're
emotional connection.
Yeah, the emotional connection. If you're hearing Mark say that and you're like, that sounds like me, then yes, then you're definitely a connector. When you're putting other people, when you're on a stage, Mark, and you're thinking about the experience of other people, you definitely have a connector's heart. That's awesome.
Mm.
What do you feel like is your pairing though? Because I'm not sure about the firecracker for you. You already kind of naturally have that. What do you think?
Actually, I'm going to stick with the firecracker. I'm sure there's a couple of other aspects of different flavors that I would probably borrow from. But I tell you what stood out to me about the firecracker, not so much the boldness or the boost
Mm-hmm.
but it was breaking the pattern.
Oh yeah. Here,
And I
I'm gonna go
definitely
back to it.
think,
Yeah.
yes, and disrupting the norm. Um, I like that because there's something very interesting about those of us who like to connect. It's almost like you're trying to create this stable norm type of thing, and sometimes breaking the norm or creating, maybe even creating some tension, doesn't always balance out, but maybe that's
Mm.
exactly what we need to create a brand new balance.
Yeah, I love that. You know, one of the things, do you ever, Mark, do you ever think when you're going to speak, even if it's just casually? I mean, not everybody that's on our webinar today is going to be like, I'm a speaker, so quote unquote, right? But we're all having to speak and communicate in different areas. Do you find that if you go into one place versus another, that you say to yourself, like, oh, I need to show up more like this, like more in this style than this style?
Yes. And that's because I like to think of what the person I'm speaking to needs in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm thinking about a particular case today. It was not a training, it was not a keynote, but it was a very important conversation where I needed to connect to that person. And I had to think about what that person needs in that moment, which I think dictates which flavor you pull out when you're communicating.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, you definitely are a seasoned communicator across all mediums and all spots. So that makes sense that. So for everybody watching, Mark is also the co-founder of Speaker Skills Academy with me. And Mark and I, we have been friends for over a decade. We're probably nearing 2 decades, Mark. I think we're getting closer to 2 decades than we are the 1 decade. And one of the things that Mark and I realized a couple of years ago was that people aren't going to get better at communicating and speaking and storytelling just by actually doing it. So, you know, one of our premises at Speaker Skills Academy is that you get better by drilling very specific skills. And Mark, wouldn't you say that some of the skills that we do would probably land, like like for instance, maybe humor. We did one today actually. Coach Teresa ran a session called Punch Your Punchlines, and I think that that would bode well for a firecracker,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
And we had a couple of people in the room this morning actually that we were all practicing this skill, and they're one of the people on the call was international too, and like English is his second language, and he was like, yeah, it's really interesting for me to try to be punchy in another language. He's like, it's a skill that I really have to like really work at. Because even if I understand how to translate it, but then to take it to another level and be punchy is something totally different.
Well, you know what I love about that, and you said it earlier, not everybody's a speaker, right? But humor can find its way into every conversation. And the goal is not necessarily to come out and give a stand-up comic routine or a humorous speech or a roast or something like that. Like maybe you're just trying to find ways to be a little bit more comical, add a little bit more levity into your everyday interaction. So something like drilling punchlines and just drilling the punchline and not the whole speech, that's the incredibly helpful thing that I think we do to help people to become better, well-rounded communicators and speakers.
Ooh, on that note, I'm just going to take it a little bit further because it happened to me today. I'm constantly coaching people, right? I'm coaching people on punchlines specifically. Um, Today, when we did it, we worked on the ending of a story where we could end it with a punch, right? So we were ending it with a punch. And I took a story out of my story file so it's not one that I've actually talked about anywhere. Just pulled it out of my story file and I gave it a whirl. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this story. But even myself, what I noticed from the first time I practiced it to the second time was not only did it get punchier, but it got shorter. And so I think sometimes too, and I'm thinking about the styles here, Mark, if you work on one, the others get better naturally. There's
Mhm.
something you're adding more than just one dimension. There's not just six dimensions there. There's all these dimensions, and I think they cross over a lot. So I love what you said about the firecracker and that, sometimes breaking those patterns is really good. So just going back to the connector, I also would say this might not be you now, Mark, but I want to ask you one more question. All of the people that I have coached that are connector types usually are very comfortable talking with people one on one and are not as comfortable talking to one to many. Was that you at any point in your life or career?
Yes, yes. There were definitely times when I felt more comfortable just having like the side conversation and almost uncomfortable with putting my thoughts and ideas out there in case they might be judged or,
Oh, oh,
yeah. And
that's
so,
it. That's something I didn't think about.
yeah,
The
well,
judging part.
then because then what that concern does is for those who want to connect, when you're afraid or uncomfortable with being judged, you're afraid of losing a connection or not making a
Mm,
connection. And I
mm.
had to learn how to formulate my words and my ideas in such a way so that I can create the same connection in a one-on-one conversation as I could with a larger group.
Oh, that's such a good point, Mark. That's really, really good. I love that. Thank you for giving a little bit deeper insight on this one. So anybody that's a connector, this is a great one to be, right? They're all great ones to be. They all have a major strength. The next one is the architect. So this is so funny, Mark. Every time I go to like do a session at, some of my clients that are, I'm not going to say the company names but I'm going to say that some of my clients where high finance or engineering is what the company's mostly about. People will come up, 90% of the people will come up as architects. They're people that love logical, clear information. They like to structure it well, and that's what they're great at it. It's their strength. And in that strength, there's such good things because clarity to people listening is so, so good. But what they could maybe need some help with, and this one actually, the pairing on it, Mark, is the wild card. And we haven't even gotten to that one yet, but it's just like the structure is great, but if you were to go on the opposite end of the spectrum between being the architect, you'd have the wild card on the other side. And what the wild card creates is a little bit more of this freedom. Now, I will say this, and you've probably had to do this in your own speaking career. When I first started speaking, at first I was like, I loved speaking professionally. I'm like, oh, I get to talk about my book and my things, and this is so fun, and I love the engagement, and I'm an extrovert. And then I was like, oh, if people are going to hire me, I need to make sure that I have that I have a good base. The architecture is well thought out. I don't want to invite people to my mud house and it falls down, right? So this is one thing that I had to practice. And what was your experience on that? Is this something that you've had to do as well?
Yeah, actually, this takes me back to my days as a classroom teacher. When I first started out, talk about the architect, I would construct my lesson from beginning to end, almost
Mm,
word to word. Almost sounds like the debate that you put out in social media earlier this week, script or not to script, right?
that
I
is the
would,
question.
that is the question. I would architect my lesson plans to the T. A
Mm,
student should not ask a question because it would just throw me off.
it wasn't in the script.
It wasn't in the script. But that gave me a foundation at the beginning. What I ended up learning was in order to be a really good teacher, I had to have a plan, a blueprint, but I could not construct everything. And that you need to be flexible and open so that you can be present and adapt to anything that's going on. And to me, that's the bonus of being the wild card. It's like,
Mm.
bring it on. I've got the blueprint so instilled that it gives me room to play in the
Oh,
wild.
I love that you said that. So, anybody watching right now, please understand that there is such beauty and power in all things. And, what you just said is the formula that I do when I coach somebody to give a TED talk. I'm like, hey, I'm not telling you to get on the stage and just be like, whoa, this is my idea, and I'm just going to go with it. I need you to be so prepared, so understanding of where you're starting and where you're going that when you get on the stage, you have the freedom to engage with the energy that's happening with the audience. Because you're going to say something that you had no idea that you were going to say. And I don't know what it is, but I promise you, and every single person, the same thing has happened, right? So I love that, Mark. It's like I'm sure you grew a lot in your career once you started doing that. You started preparing enough to be free.
Oh yeah. I always like the phrase or the term freedom within a framework.
Mm.
And that's what I thought. Create the framework, but allow yourself the freedom to speak as you like. And let me just say, this is also helpful in, everyday conversations, conversations with people you have relationships with, difficult conversations, or sometimes you're stressing yourself out over trying to construct the perfect way to say something.
Uh, yeah. And Mark, at the end, I think you and I can brainstorm, and we'll give everybody watching, we'll give like a drill that they can do. I think that'll be fun because we do that all the time. And I didn't really plan for it, so you and I will have to throw something. I have some thoughts, so you and I will throw this together. But so anybody watching, hang tight. I got we got some things for you. Um,
Kathy, can I just
yeah,
say one thing?
yeah.
I just want to make sure that all of the architects in this space do understand this. My intention is not to paint this picture of, oh, don't architect anything, don't
Yeah,
construct
for sure.
anything. No, I think organization and clarity and logic and precision makes so much sense. And one of the things that I have found with clients that I've worked with is sometimes they're nervous because they don't know what to say and what order in which to say it. So being tapping
Mm.
into your inner
Mm.
architect can help you a lot as a communicator.
Oh, 1,000,000%, Mark. That's what I was saying when I started like, getting paid to speak. I was like, I need to make sure that the audience, like, I make sure that the audience is clearly understanding what I'm saying and how they could use it to make their life or work better. So yeah, you can't do that just from being willy-nilly and and free. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. All right. And the final one is the wild card. I like that those two are at the end because I'd say the first four are probably in the middle somewhere, and these two are the ones that are on the edges. But the wild card person, they really have really unconventional thinking. They're the people that you go, wow, you thought that up? That is incredible. When other people are zigging, they're zagging, right? Like they're usually the ones that are doing things the unorthodox, unconventional way. And I would say there's a lot of wild card in me if I look at my whole life and how I grew up. It helps these kind of speakers in this style, it really helps people shift their thinking. It gives another perspective that we never thought of until somebody actually said it out loud. But they could maybe use some sage or some architect. That could be a possible pairing, right? Could
That's
be a
a
good one.
good pairing. That's a good pairing. A nod to all the wild cards because I think there's a level of trust within yourself in order to make that work. And I think we can all benefit from reaching that level of trust. And I think when we're running meetings or speaking at different events, and dare I use these words, the Q&A comes up. And I know so many people who freak out
No
from
questions,
the
please.
yeah, and especially, and now I'll tap back to the architect, right? Who likes to be super organized. Something like an impromptu Q&A could really
Ooh,
freak them out.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's when you need to be able to tap into your inner wild card,
Yes.
right? To be more comfortable in those wild moments.
I agree with that. Oh my gosh, 1,000,000%. So those are the six. And one other thing I'd love to do too. It might be kind of fun, Mark, since I didn't know you were going to be here today. So it's like happy surprise for everybody. Thanks for jumping on. I would invite if there's anybody out there that wants to pop on really quick, and if you want to say what you are and what this has got you thinking so far, please feel free to drop me a chat here, and I'll invite you on to be a panelist, and you can show up. I think I can just invite him to even just talk. You don't have to show your face if you don't want either. So just open invitation for that. First person that hits me up on that, we'll bring them on. But Mark, while people are considering, I came to a webinar. I think I was going to be behind this. I don't want to be up there. That's fine too. Let's talk about some drills really quick because, one of the things that I had in here is I was taught, I wanted everybody to understand if you want to get good at these flavors, the best thing to do is drill them. And, here we are. This is one of our a little word up shirt. We took some pictures here because we all had our shirts on. But we at Speaker Skills Academy, we do that drilling. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so here's how I always like to say it. We often refer to Speaker Skills Academy as a gym for public speaking, right? That's always one of my favorite comparisons to it. And if I could work backwards, an athlete, and we're all communication athletes, right? No matter what level you're at, right? The game is the actual conversation or presentation, right? And you don't get any better or more confident when you're in the game. You're just relying on whatever skills you currently have. Before the game, as an athlete, I can step onto the court or the field and have a practice game, right? A
Mm.
scrimmage game. And I can test out some of these skills that I've developed, right? And that's when you go to things and like you might stand in front of the mirror and practice the whole presentation. And that's important. But before you even step onto the field, before you ever step onto the court for a scrimmage game, you need to get into the gym. You need to lift some weights. You need to have an arm day, a leg day, a cardio day, or a humor day, a speaker flavor day, a body language day. You need to have all of those things where you're not practicing with a speech, but you're practicing and zeroing in on a particular skill. It's the drilling of a particular skill that actually makes you better. We're not
Yeah.
always here to give speeches. Not everybody is giving speeches, Kathy. We know that. Not
No,
everybody is a
not even
speaker,
close.
right? And
Yep.
I've met people who said, listen, I don't necessarily need to practice speeches, but I need to get better in my everyday, whether it be personal or professional conversations. That means that they're looking for particular skills to work on. And speaking and communicating is quite honestly made up of so many different communication muscles. And the best way to strengthen every muscle is to drill them over and over and over and over again. And I love how you always make the comparison to pickleball at the end of
I do. I
the
do.
yeah. So give some space to that.
You got everybody. I don't know if you can see the screen that everybody else is seeing. It's like it's running on loop, but you got everybody you were running this drill on body language. And so what they're seeing is you have everybody doing these. So we were just practicing bigger gestures. I also noticed that you're wearing your purple Brooklyn. You're representing Brooklyn all the time. Just I noticed. I got you. But yeah, so why don't we come up with a drill for them to run? That would be really fun, right?
I like
And
that.
I'm just going to put this up here too. So if anybody wants to come check us out at Speaker Skills Academy, please do. We have so much fun drilling, but why don't we give them a drill? So if we think about it, one thing that we've kind of showed them is that, you have a primary speaking flavor, and I'm sure just like anybody that's ever taken it, Mark, you hear it and you go, yeah, that's me.
Mhm.
That is
Mhm.
the kind of my strength. But we have to have them practice doing something else. So I want to give them a drill. What would be a good drill for them to practice across the flavors?
Well, I think one of the drills that we had, actually, when we ran this session at Speaker Skills Academy, is thinking of something you want to share, right? As a matter of fact, let's just take the last something that happened to you today, right? And it could be something every day, just something every day. I don't care where you live. We come across a story every day, whether we're a part of the story, we've seen the story, we read the story, right? So pull something that happened today, right? And practice retelling it through your own flavor.
Ooh. And then tell it through the other ones.
And then tell it through the other ones. Ooh. And can I just say this?
Love that.
I think we should practice in our flavor and then practice in our secondary flavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I want everybody to know is, and Kathy, you talked about Myers-Briggs. I've also done Clifton Strengths, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way it was
Yeah.
always kind of presented to me is we sort of have all of these different things in our arsenal, in our toolbox. And sometimes they're all on a road trip, and you just kind of have to decide which one is going to take the driver's seat. Normally, my connector is taking the driver's seat, but
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, my firecracker needs to take the wheel.
My sage needs to take the wheel. No, it's so true. I love that. So, okay, so here's the drill then. I love this, Mark. That's such a good one. Because you can even drill it down to, you can have them even come up with, we could have them come up with a statement that even boils down, that you could just start with even just a statement. For instance, one of the story I was practicing today that I've never talked about was the time that I talked to my friend who lives in Taiwan, and I told him, oh, this COVID thing, it'll be over in like 3 weeks. Most embarrassing thing I've ever said in my life. And he's been living in Taiwan for 30 years and he goes, I don't think so. Like I think this is going to become a global pandemic. And he was right and I was wrong. Anyway, I put it in my story file and so maybe what I could do is just take that line and say one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done in my life was said this thing. And how would a sage say it, right? So then we could practice going, oh, if I was being wise, I'd probably be a little bit more like, you know, next time you have a thought, before putting your judgment or your assessment out there, take the time to really consider every possibility because sometimes you could be wrong, right? That would be more from a like a sage thing. I could be
Mm.
really funny if I wanted to be wild. If I wanted to be a wild card, I could be very funny about it. I could be like, okay, tip on, talking about world health care. If you don't know anything about world health care stuff, keep your damn mouth shut. Okay. Like, keep your mouth shut and let's see what happens kind of thing. No, but that's kind of, there's these extremes and it would be fun to take that and practice. So
Ooh,
that's a really good one. I love
ooh.
that because it's easy. It's just all you have to do is think of it, just go like, then what would the connector do? If I'm thinking like you, then I'm going, oh, so now I'm trying to connect people or trying to be a connector or I'm trying to connect emotionally with the people in the room. How would I speak a little bit differently if I was a connector?
Ooh. Well, using that story about saying, "Oh, this thing's going to be over," um, I think the connector in me would say, next time somebody gives an opinion of yours, the next time somebody gives you an opinion that is different from yours, rather than debate it, find out how you can see the other side.
Ooh, see, Mark, that's so wise and sagey. That's very sagey. I like how I'm just going to add
Mm.
an N. That's very connectory. That's very wild cardy. That's very sagey. That was very sagey. I really like that.
Mm.
So, okay, so that's an easy drill. You can do this on your own, or you can do this. It would be really fun. Like Mark and I, we're kind of nerds and geeky about that, right? We'll sit sometimes even when we're having meetings. We'll be like, oh, let's do this thing. Let's go. You go first. I go. But you could kind of go back and forth with somebody else.
You know what? and this is why I love your brain because you're already thinking about drills. And again, this is what really helps us. I said take a story, and then you, no pun intended, drilled it down to if I could take a story and just summarize it in one message, what would it be, right? And then how do I say that one message, that one line
In
in
a
my
different voice.
sagey voice, in my
Yes.
connective
Yes.
voice,
I love
in my
that.
wild card
Even
voice?
the voice, you get it down to the level of a voice. I love that. That's so good. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, we are almost at time, Mark. It went by so fast. Two things for anybody watching. First of all, I hope this was super helpful. I hope that you watched today and you were like, yeah, this is really helpful to know my speaking flavor. I hope you really understand that the flavors around your primary can be so helpful. And I would say the best speakers I know in the world are ones that in one whole story will go across an array of flavors. And Mark and I would also love to invite you to come to Speaker Skills Academy. I'm just going to actually just drop the link in here. Hopefully I spelled it right, Mark. I think I did. If you want to come check out what we're doing, this is a huge part of it. This is just one of the many things that we do there is we do fun things like assessing ourselves and trying to figure out what our communication style is. And Speaker Skills Academy is open to anybody who just wants to walk into the room and be part of an awesome community of people. Mark's all the way over in Brooklyn as per his shirt. I'm in Portland for anybody watching here. I know there's a couple Portland folks on that I saw. If you're anywhere in between or even outside, you're always welcome. The community's great. The water's warm and we drill all the time and it's super fun.
And I would say it's become probably the fastest, most effective, and most communal way to become better at speaking. You know? And I
For
think that's
sure.
really important to say. And I think that's what most people don't get because we're so new and unique at what we're doing. But this is a place to get comfortable with the most uncomfortable thing that people have to do.
And then you'll come to love it like we do. You will.
Listen,
So,
I don't want to be on my soapbox, but at the end of the day, I've worked with a lot of people, not only individuals, but groups. And people get nervous standing in front of people and speaking. And it creates so much tension. And at the end of the day, it feels like being thrown into the pool. We're not throwing you into the pool. All right. We're inviting you for a swim. We want
mm,
to make the most uncomfortable thing more comfortable because adult learning principles and even youth learning principles say that you get better at things when you are more comfortable, when you're in an environment that makes it comfortable for you to learn and upskill. Word up.
word up. Oh, Mark, thank you for jumping on. And everybody, I got some hearts that were popping up here on the side. Thank you for everybody that came today. Thank you for joining. We will send an email out with, I'm going to send you an email out that actually has the all of the flavors on. And again, we definitely invite you to join our community. Come check us out. Would love to see you again. And thanks for joining us today.
Word up.
Word up.